The quality of the original paintwork is mediocre, because of which, in many instances, some body parts were subjected to cosmetic repairs. You should not count on good corrosion resistance of the body, since there is no galvanization here. Rust appears most quickly in places where the paintwork is damaged: on the hood, windshield frame, front panel, seals, bottom of the doors, and rear wheel arches. The trunk lid is also subject to corrosion. It rusts along the edge of the chrome trim above the license plate, in the risk zone and the rear edges of the front arches. In addition, in places sandblasting corrosion quickly makes unnecessary holes. Before buying a car on the secondary market, look under the driver's mat, because here, in the presence of moisture, the longitudinal reinforcement corrodes and the attachment points. Do not be too lazy to remove the trunk lining and check the rear body cups, since the presence of rust here is fraught with expensive body repairs. No less a threat to the body is the appearance of rust at the point of contact between the rear of the threshold and the front of the rear arch. The metal of the bottom copes well with the onslaught of the red disease, however, additional corrosion treatment will not interfere with it. Here, the subframe is most susceptible to corrosion, in which, without care, over the years, the attachment area of U200B, the rear silent blocks of the front levers, rots. It is also worth checking the underside of the filler neck and the fuel pipes for rust. Of the less significant troubles, one can single out the tendency to corrosion of the elements of the exhaust system and the fastening of the suspension parts, which is why a grinder has to be used during repairs. Among the problem areas of body equipment are the tendency to override the protective plastic of the front optics and windshield, which moreover often catches stones due to the small angle of inclination. Reflectors of halogen and gas discharge optics quickly give up, get cloudy, and door stops need to be repaired after 150,000 kilometers. It is difficult to call the gas stops of the tailgate also successful. They quickly cost to cope with the weight of the tailgate. In winter, owners of the Nissan X-Trail T30 are faced with such a nuisance as freezing of the door lock mechanism. They have little lubrication. The trunk lock is also unreliable, which has a not very good design and is prone to wedging. Another weak point is the trapezium of the wipers, which should be sorted out and lubricated at the first signs of wedging. If this is not done, over time it will begin to crumble, which will lead to breakage of the hinges and the motor. Power units. The line of power units Nissan X-Trail T30 consists of two gasoline aspirated engines, 2.0 QR20DE and 2.5 QR25DE, a 28 horsepower turbo engine 2.0 SR20VET and diesel engine 2.2 YD22DDTI. A common disadvantage of all internal combustion engine is the inefficiency of the cooling system, as well as the tendency of its parts to corrode and leak fluid. For gasoline engines, the ignition coils and the intake system, which is endowed with corrugations prone to depressurization, do not differ in reliability. When operating a car in the regions with a harsh climate, this list is replenished with engine mounts. They serve for 5 years. For cars with a mileage of more than 150,000 kilometers, there are failures in the internal combustion engine control system, which accelerated engine wear during cold starts. On the same run, the tightness of the sealing ring of the gas line under the hood is possible. As a result, fuel leaks appear near the quick release joint. Gasoline engines, although they are representatives on the same series, have different cylinder blocks, camshafts, and auxiliary systems. If it is better to choose between these engines, give preference to a 2-liter unit, as it is less prone to overheating, which makes it more resourceful. Of the main problems of atmospheric internal combustion engines, the timing chain should be singled out, which is endowed with a weak chain. It can stretch without even serving 150,000 kilometers. The signal to check the condition of the circuit will be interruptions in the operation of the engine, tripping, and a decrease in traction. Since there are no hydraulic compensators, every 60–80,000 kilometers it is necessary to adjust the thermal clearances of the valves. Closer to 200,000 kilometers, most specimens have a progressive oil burn caused by caulking, piston rings, sticking, and wear of the valve stem seals. They last 5–6 years. In addition, not the most successful piston with thin rings and an oil drain, designed exclusively for low-viscosity oils, is used here. The phase shifter, thermostat, oil pump, valve cover gasket, and seals have a smaller resource. Among other troubles, it is worth highlighting that unstable operation of the engine caused by contamination of the fuel injectors and the throttle assembly. Periodic cleaning is required. When choosing an X-Trail T30 until 2004, it is necessary to check the cylinders with an endoscope. Since such specimens were endowed with a short-lived catalyst, it began to break down early and dusted into the cylinders. Later, metal-supported catalysts began to be used. Of the operational shortcomings, one should single out poor adaptation to winter operation and sensitive to the quality of gasoline. The turbo engine is distinguished by good reliability and, unlike atmospheric internal combustion engine, has practically no problems with the cooling system and oil burner. In addition, a strong metal chain is used in the timing drive with a resource of about 250,000 kilometers. However, not everything is as rosy as it might seem. Regular expensive maintenance and only good fuel are required. In addition, cars with this engine were not bought for quiet trips to the country, which means it will not be easy to find a live specimen. Among the weak points of the engine, one can single out the sensitivity of the turbine and the phase control system to the quality of the lubricant, the short service life of the IAC and DMRV, the crankshaft oil seal, and the oil pressure sensor. The diesel Nissan X-Trail T30 is equipped with a Japanese-made YD22 DDTI engine. This engine has a reliable mechanical part, and the timing drive is endowed with a durable double-row chain. The main trouble are caused by the use of domestic diesel fuel, which negatively affects the service life of fuel equipment. Also, sources of problems are the rare replacement of fuel filter and the dirt that accumulates in the fuel tank over the years. For cars of the first years of production, the cylinder head must be carefully checked for corrosion. Cracks between the valve seats and gas leaks into the coolant jacket requires an endoscope. It is also worth highlighting the tendency to sour glow plugs, and they are fragile here. Otherwise, the engine is not bad and with regular maintenance lasts a long time, about 350,000 kilometers. X-Trail T30 buyers can choose from two types of gearboxes, 5-speed manual and automatic Jetco RE4F04B. The mechanics are very reliable, but due to age, it may require replacement of synchronizers or bearings. With age, the gear selection mechanisms also require attention, in which the cables stretch and the lever hinge become loosened. For cars with a diesel engine, a dual mass flywheel needs to be replaced by 200,000 kilometers. The original clutch kit averages 140–160,000 kilometers. It is worth noting that it is almost impossible to check the condition of the clutch. With proper maintenance and the presence of an additional coolant radiator, a 4-speed automatic also lasts a long time. The main culprit in premature gearbox failure is the torque converter lock-up clutch, the wear products of which are carried by oil along the box, contaminating the solenoids and destroying the planetary gear with the valve body. With the regular maintenance, the first repair of the box will be required closer to 250,000 kilometers. It is necessary to replace the gas turbine engine blocking pad, solenoids, brake band, and oil pressure sensor. On the same run, breakdowns of the planetary gearbox and breakage of the splines occur. A little earlier, the contacts and power relay of the electromagnet, which unlocks the gear selector, may become unusable. Most of the Nissan X-Trail T30 presented on the secondary market are equipped with an all-wheel drive system with an electromagnetic clutch in the rear axle drive. This transmission can easily overcome small obstacles, but it is not suitable for conquering deep fords, since the clutch painfully tolerates moisture and prolonged slippage overheats. During operation, it is recommended to flush the clutch every 50–60,000 kilometers in order to extend the life of the electromagnet and bearings. It is also necessary to monitor the condition of the CV joint anthers, and after 150,000 kilometers, it will not be superfluous to renew the lubricant in them. Closer to 200,000 kilometers, their intermediate support of the cardan shaft and corrosives need to be replaced. The transfer case also serves for a long time, but if it is not periodically serviced, premature wear of the shafts and bearings is possible. Even ahead of schedule, the Razdatka can be killed by leaks, moisture gets into the mechanism, and imbalance of the cardan shaft. On both axles on the Nissan X-Trail T30, McPherson type's independent suspension is used. In general, the chassis can be called reliable, but there are a couple of features here. So, for example, thin tubular levers are used on the rear axle, which are prone to corrosion and easily bend when in contact with bumps. In front, aluminum levers with non-removable silent blocks are used, the replacement of which is expensive, which is why the owners are experimenting with installing an analog, which negatively affects the resource of the part. The springs are not very successful here either, they tend to break off. Of the problem areas of the suspension, it is worth highlighting the shock absorbers truss supports. They serve for a long time, 100–150,000 kilometers, but if they are not replaced in time, there is a risk of damaging the body bowls. You should also avoid installing spacers under the supports, as this negatively affects handling. They don't like experiments with tuning all-wheel bearings. When installing large diameter wheels, they run less than 100,000 km. On the regular skating rings, they last twice as long. The rest of the parts with moderate loads can withstand 150–100,000 km. The steering system uses a rack and pinion mechanism with a hydraulic booster. The most problematic place here is the rail, which painfully endures wheel turns in a satisfactory car and operating in severe frost. You should also change the fluid at least once every 5–6 years, since not only the service life of the amplifier pump, but also the rail depends on its purity. It is worth noting that even the first knocks appear in the reel. You should not immediately carry it in for repair, since in the initial stage of the problem you can limit yourself to pulling up, but the main thing here is not to overdo it. Things are not bad with the reliability of consumables. Steering tips serve 70–90,000 kilometers, traction can last up to 150,000 kilometers. Reliable and brakes. The only thing that requires special attention is the calipers and caliper pins, which when worn can squeak and breaks even after replacing the pads. It is also recommended to periodically change the protective plates, as they protect the disc from rapid wear and corrosion. After 10–12 years of operation, a complex overhaul of the calipers with the replacement of pistons should be carried out. Despite the fact that the interior of the Nissan X-Trail t30 is rustic and creaky, it would not be correct to call it poor quality, since it practically does not cause problems. Among the shortcomings, one can single out very poor sound insulation, fabric seat upholstery that quickly gets dirty, and dashboard mesh inserts. The steering wheel braid and leather upholstery of the seats do not retain their presentation for a long time, the paint is wiped off. The clips for fastening the decorative panels and the rear shelf are rather weak here, they loosen up over time. Also, sources of noise are the hatch cover and the front seats, the second frame rubs against the foam. The operational disadvantages include the long warm-up of the cabin in winter and the poor sound insulation of the standard audio system. Does not cause much trouble and selling equipment. Of the minor troubles, the owners note the noise of the climate system, the short life of the transistors in the stove motor control unit located behind the gas pedal, and the lamellas of the motor rotor wear out. The radiator of the air conditioner is also rather weak. In terms of electrics, not very reliable relays, buttons, locks, and fans can be distinguished. For machines operated in the north, wiring often fails. There are also such troubles as spontaneous unlocking of doors and turning on the emergency gang, which are caused by malfunctions in the operation of the radio control unit. It is treated by adding an additional relay. If one of the sound channels is turned off during CD playback, check the status of the contact of the cable. The Nissan X-Trail t30 is a great option for people who want a spacious all-terrain vehicle but don't have a big budget. If you are the owner of this car model, please describe the problems that you had to face during the operation of the car. Perhaps it is your review that will help readers of our site when choosing a car.